your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell out before you blow up a plane.
Basha K. Ali!
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what good you say I dabbled in stand-up or something. I have no disrespect for you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt.
I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. You can listen to this show on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, Rumble, Rockfin, Twitter, Facebook even, unless they're taking me down for hate speech. So if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Send it to a friend. Share it with an enemy even. Before I bring on our fabulous guest, I always love talking to fellow female athletes. I hate saying, oh, it's a female athlete, but we're talking about a very female issue today. Before I bring her in, guys, I've got comedy shows coming up. Come see me. This summer and fall, I'll be on Long Island, Plano, Texas, Massillon, Ohio, San Diego, which is, I think, Spanish for the whale's vagina, Phoenix, and we'll be adding more shows for sure, plus a special event coming up in September in upstate New York. Stay tuned for those details. But for tickets to these shows, go to chrissiemayr.com. That's my website. Please and thank you. It's going to be fun. Okay. Our guest today is very exciting. She's basically like a professional skateboarder that kind of blew up around the trans issue when she did a competition a couple years ago, and this dude sauntered on in and outplaced her, and she came out with her story, and she's just, and it's exciting. It's cool to have somebody other than Riley Gaines. You know, it's good to have other sports represented in this whole debacle here. And I'm just noticing now that my camera is crooked because whatever. That's neither here nor there. You guys don't care about a crooked camera, do you? Put your hands together. Clap them. Yes, I know if you're sitting at home by yourself, you don't want to clap, but please clap. Put your hands together for Taylor Silverman.
Hi, Chrissie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
You said fellow female athlete. What sport did you play?
I was a springboard diver. I started when I was 11. I was on the swim team, and then I looked over. I remember I was like paddling with a kickboard, and I looked over and I saw the divers, and I was like, well, that looks like way more fun. So nice. I think that day I dropped swimming because swimming just felt like such work.
Were there any guys back then?
No, there were no guys trying to perform as women. And I talk about this all the time, how lucky I was to have graduated college before this was at all an issue. Yeah, I graduated in 2005 before it was a thing. But I remember I would watch the guy divers all the time at college meets. And like, they could jump higher, they could spin faster. They're just stronger.
Yeah. When I was in school, it was still not really a big issue yet. The only time I would ever hear about it is when I was listening to Opie and Anthony with my dad.
You're an Opie and Anthony fan? Oh my God.
My dad was an Opie and Anthony fan, so I had to listen to it in the car every day, which at the time I hated. And I was like, why does talk radio even exist? But now I had it, and I'm really grateful that I got to actually like hear some of these news stories before they became huge.
Wow.
Because they were talking about like Fallon Fox back then.
Who was Fallon Fox? I should know
the boxer, the UFC fighter. I mean, the one that Joe Rogan had kind of blew up.
Oh, right. Oh my goodness. Wow. 5'7", 135 pounds. That's so neat that you listen to Opie and Anthony. I did a show on Compound Media, which is the network that Anthony started after he was fired from Sirius XM.
Yeah. That was when I was like a teenager though. So I didn't know who I was listening to. I was just like, Dad, turn on some music.
Wow. Oh, that's so cool.
He was like always honest with me about that issue. And it kind of was funny down the line that it ended up happening to me because it was something we had like laughed about in the car for years before.
When did you start skateboarding?
I didn't start till kind of late because I had played other sports for like my whole childhood and into my teenage years. But I switched to homeschooling and did like an online program after my freshman year of school. So I started skating when I was about 16.
Yeah, it's like, well, at least it's not gymnastics, right? Because if you don't, there's certain sports, like if you don't start real young, it's like you might as well be 30. But like 16.
That's how I feel sometimes skateboarding.
And then how long did it take for you to get good? And then how long till you started doing competitions?
I don't know. I don't feel like I am that good. I just like to skate, but I started doing competitions maybe in my 20s, like early 20s. And at first it was just like people at the park would say you should go to Detroit or Ann Arbor or somewhere that's a few hours away or go to thing. And I was doing pretty well in all the stuff that was within, you know, a 4-hour drive. So I started traveling a little bit more, and it was something I just did for fun. And I really enjoyed it. And it was really cool that I actually was able to make some money sometimes skateboarding. But when this stuff started happening, because it didn't just happen to me once, it happened 3 different times. And
wow, with the same person. So tell me about the events that led up to what happened in 2022 at the Red Bull Cornerstone Series event.
So there were 3 different people.
Oh my gosh.
I'm going to start back in 2018. I think it was 2018 was the first event that I went to. And it was one of the first events that I went to where I traveled kind of far, and I didn't expect to do very well. I knew I was going to be like in a bigger group of women and girls. And I was kind of shocked that everybody went along with this guy showing up and being in one of the qualifiers. Now, he didn't make it through a qualifier. Neither did I. That was like a big group of people, and I was like in the lower rankings. And he didn't do that well, but I was still thinking like, why
are you here?
Entertaining this? But at the time, I genuinely thought that like the next year it would be something people were like talking and laughing about. But it ended up becoming that particular event, which was it's an event called Exposure. They now champion this. They're not a girls event anymore. They're like a girls and non-binary and whatever.
Oh, okay.
You are, and it's insane. But then I went to an event in Chicago in like 2020, I think, and same deal. But this time I placed second, and there's a guy who he's like kind of popular amongst the skateboarding world, at least not always in a good way. He's also kind of like infamous, like people make fun of him, but he ended up winning that. And I remember leaving that event in Chicago with another girl who I used to hang out with and skate with. And I said something about how, you know, amongst the women I had placed first, and she looked at me like horrified. And she goes,
what? You're just saying a true thing.
She goes, Marby is a woman. And I was like, you're shitting me, right? Like you're messing with me. And I realized she wasn't. So that was also the time I realized like I could not surround myself with people who were involved in this ideology.
Drinking the Kool-Aid.
But I again thought like, I'm just super unlucky that this keeps happening. It's not going to keep happening. No way.
When did you first know that these competitors were dudes? Is it a way that they skate? Was it seeing them before?
I have eyes and ears. It's like, it's not hard to tell. I don't mean to be rude, but like, it's not like there was any questioning it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very obvious. And even in times where you're like, if you weren't sure, you can tell by the skating. It's like different entire categories. If you watch like a skateboarding contest and you compare the men's division to the women's division, it's drastically different. But fast forward to the Red Bull contest, I had competed in a qualifier in Detroit and been invited to this. So it's an invite only. So they're well aware of who's going to be there. But the competitors don't know who's necessarily going to be there until the day that they get there, unless you like are scouring the internet for results, which at the time I wasn't. I was like really busy at that time. And I ended up thinking I wouldn't even go to this finals event because I was supposed to go to Israel. But my trip kept getting canceled because travel was like a nightmare during this time. And I ended up going because my trip got canceled. And I was really focused on that at the time. So I show up and I see what's happening. And I was like pretty upset right away because this wasn't something that was a man shows up and wants to compete and the people organizing it are too uncomfortable to just say no. Because they invited him personally. They knew he was going to be there, and he'd already won a bunch of money at these qualifiers where he'd been going stop to stop collecting $500, mopping the floor with women.
Whoa. This is Lillian Gallagher?
Yeah. So, and I had done some research after the fact online when I, got back home, found that he had done like, I think close to 10, if not 10 different women's contests prior to this where he was collecting money.
Wow.
And, I've been told that after this, he hasn't done any women's contests. So
really?
Yeah. But I've gotten messages from people who say they never saw this guy again, who are like in that area where he skated. But I don't know. Like, I think best case scenario, he would realize what he did was wrong and realize he can still skateboard without like hurting other people and taking stuff away from women. But I have no idea. But basically, I ended up competing because I called my dad and I was like, Dad, what do I do? Like, this is going to be humiliating. And he told me basically, like, how much money did you spend on your flight and your house you booked out there? And I told him, and he goes, well, you're based on the ranking and based on the run you've practiced, it's likely you're gonna place no matter what, which means you're gonna take home some money no matter what, and at least just pay for your trip. And we'll talk about it when you get home about like what's the right thing to do. And he also, he was aware and I was aware, but not to the extent I think that he was aware that it could be like unsafe for me to say something about this.
Oh, wow.
So
because of all the allies.
Yeah, all of the very friendly, inclusive allies. Basically, I end up competing. I place second, and I went home, and I was getting ready for my trip to Israel, thinking about this a lot. And I get home, and I like go to the skate park, and everybody's like, "What happened at the Red Bull thing?" And I told them like I got second, but the person who won was a dude, and ended that it was a woman, and clapped, and like there were people talking about it to each other privately, but no one said anything. And when I started telling people, the reaction was like, oh my God, like that happened to you? Like, have you seen the Leah Thomas thing? Like, that's not okay.
Wow.
So sorry. And I realized people cared about this a lot. People were like really emotionally invested in this. And it wasn't just me who was really upset about it. Because I think for a while, I almost like blocked it out because it is a very strange type of thing to go through and figure out how to navigate and deal with. Like, how do you talk to somebody about that when you know you're in the right, but you don't know, you could say the wrong thing to the wrong person and all of a sudden it's turned around and you're the bad guy.
Because people treat it like race, that if you say something, it's a.
And at the time, like, I didn't have this like massive online community and all these people who I've met now who were talking about this far before I ever knew they were. I was just like a skateboarder who like wasn't paying that much attention, except for the things that are happening in my life. I was interested in politics, but not like to the degree that I am now of like keeping up with the news every day and watching podcasts. But it hit me like really hard because I didn't expect when I spoke up for it to be so big. I thought I was just gonna like piss off some skateboarders in the Midwest. But it ended up like blowing up. And basically what had happened is I tried to handle it behind the scenes. At the time I was like, first I just need to get to Israel because that had been a big focus of mine for a while. And I was going to like age out of this program.
It was like a birthright trip, right?
I was going to go on birthright and it kept getting postponed and I was going to turn too old to be able to go. So I was get on the first flight I can get out there. And I had been making this plan that I wanted to like spend months there and skate there. And it was like a dream I wanted to do for so long. And I did it and it was awesome. But the whole trip ended up being even more amazing and crazier because of everything that happened. And at the time it was really scary, but I kind of just rode the wave and it was really fun. And I feel like it reached a lot of people and I'm glad that my story has reached a lot of people. And I think that every time a woman or a girl speaks up, it helps others to speak up too. But initially I had emailed Red Bull, and I had reached out to one of the judges at the event because, you know, we had talked a little bit at the event and I just messaged him on Instagram and I was like, hey, like, I really don't think what had happened was right. And I want to talk to you about it. And he actually had like agreed with me. And he had kind of kept kicking the can down the road, though.
Was this Eric who you emailed? Eric Dummer?
No, I'm talking about one of the judges at the event.
Wow. Okay.
Not the guy who was like the event director or whatever with Red Bull. Not the guy who had been organizing me to get there, but one of the skaters who was judging the event. And anyone who's at that event, you can look at that panel of judges and you can all tell me exactly who I'm talking about. But I'm not going to say it because I would rather him come out and say it himself. But you have a 1 in 3 chance of guessing the right answer, and I think it's pretty obvious. It's the only one there who actually knows how to skate. But basically, he agreed with me. He said we would get on a call, but that never happened. So instead of just continuing to wait around, which I did for a while, I emailed Red Bull and I had emailed, what was his name? Like Eric Dummer.
Eric Dummer. Yeah.
His name is
Eric. Literally, yeah, Eric Dummer.
I feel like God has the best sense of humor because my man and I got silver to a man. And the guy who like let it all happen, his name is Mr. Dummer. But I sent him an email, which I think is actually in the post you pulled up. But I basically explained to him that I thought it was really not fair. This is how it financially impacted me and all the other girls. And I didn't know if he was the right person to talk to or if he could direct me to the right person to talk to. But I wanted to talk to someone about making sure this didn't happen again. And I didn't even tell them, like, I want you to fix my paycheck. I just want to make sure that this didn't happen again. And I understood that it was a difficult issue for them, too, because they didn't want to be a target. But he completely ignored me. He wouldn't talk to me. And the longer that I waited, the more I just started to feel like I don't owe these people anything.
When did you send this email?
I don't know exactly right now. I have to pull it up. But
when was the competition, the Red Bull competition? The
competition was in, I think, November or December. I can't remember. It was during Hanukkah, but it was
of 22?
21, I think.
Of 21, okay.
And then I emailed him. It was like early the following year. So I waited a little while because I reached out to one of the judges first, thinking that it was going to be like the sort of thing that like he connected me to the person to talk to. We all talked about it. We figured out like this was a problem. The girls are not cool with this. Like some might be, but it doesn't mean we're all cool with it and that it's right and it's okay to do. But because like every step I tried to take didn't work, it took me a while to email him. But I waited I think over a month and he just never talked to me. So I ended
Yeah,
up,
so this is the message you sent for people who are just listening.
yeah,
Hi, Eric. Hope all is well with you. I'm reaching out in hopes of being directed to the right person to express my concerns about what occurred at the Red Bull Cornerstone contest with the transgender competitor in the women's division. Perhaps that is you. If not, hopefully you can put me in contact with the correct person. A biological man with a clear advantage won the women's division best trick and also won multiple qualifiers. This took away the opportunity that was meant for women to place and earn money. What happened was unfair, and at the time I was too uncomfortable to speak up. I understand that in today's society, even some women think this is acceptable, but I believe in doing the right thing, even if it's not the popular thing. I now realize it's really important for me to speak up, and I'd like to schedule a time to talk. And you got no response from this.
right. I haven't read that in a while. I was really nice in that.
What, you were very nice. Is there anything you would change?
But and honestly, now with like where things are now, I don't even think I would have used that same language today if it had happened now. I wouldn't have even used the word transgender because it doesn't even matter. It's
You've
just,
been like, a dude was competing in the women's contest. Yeah.
yeah, but he didn't respond, so I had kind of just had enough, and one day I just posted it, and it took maybe like 2 minutes for me to realize I had just changed my entire life. And
Really?
yeah, it immediately.
This is your Instagram post you're
Yeah.
talking about.
I have Twitter or X, but back then it was Twitter. But immediately it was just like the notifications on my phone were going so fast that I like couldn't go through.
Wow.
And I ended up actually going to the beach. I was in my studio in Bat Yam, and I walked down to Hafirschleim, and I laid on the beach for a while, and I just kind of thought about things, and I knew I did the right thing, and I actually felt really relieved, and it was like a weight off my shoulders immediately.
So you're in Israel when you posted this. Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know if I would have been able to post it if I'd been in America. I think I would have been really scared. But there I wasn't scared, because all the Israeli skaters, when I told them about this, they were just like F that guy.
Like no patience for any of it.
They're very straightforward. They're the only skater there who had like disagreed with me was an American who was like there on a work visa and didn't want to become a citizen because he didn't want to have to serve in the army because he didn't believe in a war. And I was like, dude, like enjoy your little job here, but I'm gonna talk about serious things.
So you post this on Instagram. My name is Taylor Silverman. I'm a female athlete. I have been skateboarding for 11 years and competing for several years. I've been in 3 different contests with trans women, 2 of which I placed second. At the last contest series I did for Red Bull, I placed second. The trans competitor who won took $1,000 in qualifiers, $3,000 in finals, and $1,000 in best trick. This totaled to $5,000 of the prize money meant for the female athletes. I took $1,000 in qualifiers and $1,750 for second place, so $2,750 in total. The girl who took third received $750. The girl who deserved $1,000 for best trick took nothing, along with whoever would have placed third. I deserved to place first to be acknowledged for my win and get paid. I reached out to Red Bull and was ignored. I am sick of being bullied into silence. Right, and then you had the email which you had sent first, and then you put this on Instagram. So how much time goes by to where you're realizing, oh, this is getting so many likes, this is blowing up? And then when did people on other platforms start getting wind of it?
It was like within an hour or two, I started getting reached out to by people who I didn't know at the time. But one of the first people to reach out and like check on me and tell me you need to join Twitter right now, Colin Wright and Christina Buttons.
Who's Colin Wright? Should I know him?
He's like a scientist or doctor, and he talks about how, you know, sex is binary. Ooh. But he's really cool, and his girlfriend Christina Buttons is a journalist, or I don't know if they're married now. They might be married now. I hope they are, because they're a really nice couple. But she had written a story about it, And I think that was like one of the first stories. And one of the reasons that it was like blowing up so big is because the majority of the comments weren't about what the post was about. The majority of the comments were just like talking about me being a Jew. And it was like just thousands and thousands and thousands, which I was like, I mean, I guess this is oddly a blessing in disguise because it's getting so much attention. But I think it was like that night I went on Piers Morgan.
That night? Wow, because I
so.
was just watching your Piers Morgan appearance, and
I think it was either that night or the next night. Honestly, that whole like next 2 weeks is kind of a blur. Because
I bet.
And I immediately got like really sick. And people, I don't know if this ever happened to you or like if other people who have gone viral unexpectedly have had this happen, but I was in shock. Like I couldn't eat.
It's a process. The first time it happens, like you really have to go through it because nothing can prepare you for it, like going through it. And like there are times you're very anxious. You could have a panic attack, sort of. You get really like you have to walk away from it. You got to put your phone down. There's different waves and there's different like cycles of it, I guess.
Actually hard for me to even watch that interview or like a lot of the first ones just because I mean, people who don't know me wouldn't know, but I sounded so sick. I could hardly talk. Like I spent like the half hour before that. I think my hair was still wet in that interview because I had stood in the shower trying to like clear my throat because I was sick from not eating, not sleeping, and stress.
Wow.
But I got through it, and my family's like super supportive, and so are my friends, so that helped a lot. And I had actually made some friends in Israel, so I wasn't completely alone there. Although it's scary being in another country and having that happen and like going to the skate park and people looking at you and them knowing.
Really? So you got recognized immediately from this?
Yeah. I mean, I had interviews there. It was
wow.
And I basically, my schedule for the next like couple of weeks before I came home was just like podcasts back to back. And I didn't really have a normal sleep schedule because the time difference is like 8 hours later or like maybe 7. And I'd be doing stuff in the middle of the night. I don't know if you hear my dog is like, he's making funny noises out there.
Oh, he's encouraging you.
I hope he's not distracting anybody watching, but if you hear something, that's him.
He's doing his Piers Morgan impression.
It may be.
How was going on his show? Did you feel like he represented you fairly?
It was really fast. Every time you go on the news, it's like a blink and it's over. But he gave me the opportunity to speak about something important, and I'm grateful for everybody who's given me that opportunity.
What do you say to people who are like, "Oh, just work harder. Don't bitch about coming in second"?
It's not about that. Even. Like what a lot of people don't realize, or they'll say you're like a sore loser. I would have said something even if I won. I would have said something even if I got in last place. It doesn't matter. It all that matters is that this is a category that is for women, so we have equal opportunity. And in a lot of sports, so they have safety and privacy. And that's the issue. Like I tell myself to work harder a lot too. That's a good thing to do as an athlete. But when people say, "Oh, well, you just suck," or like you need to work harder, or stop being a sore loser, it's like that's not what it's about. Because what I'm speaking out about isn't something about sportsmanship. It's about somebody else being a cheater. And cheating is not the same thing.
Yeah. And I like that you said, even if I came in first, because even if that Lillian dude had come in second, it's like, well, you're still robbing that third place girl from getting second.
That actually bothered me more than what happened to me. Because I remember the girl in third, she was like the youngest person. She was like, the contest I think was like 16 and up, but she was like 17 or 18. And
wow.
I just thought to myself, being like in my mid,
how discouraging that is.
Well, I thought like how this would be even worse if I were her age. And I can't even imagine like her parents were there. And if my dad had been there, So everyone would have known what was going on.
That's awesome. Do you feel like, what do you think it would take to get Red Bull to finally respond to basically letting a man like cheat you out of the 5K, since they stayed silent and ignored you?
I don't know that they ever will respond. I don't expect them to, and I don't really think that they will. But I would hope that they would at least change what's going on. But it's the thing is, it's not just Red Bull. Red Bull's like a sponsor, and they had done the organization of this contest, but the actual like governing body for the majority of competitions in skateboarding is the border. And the guy who runs the border is super woke. And it's like, until people actually speak up, and not just to your friends, because I talk to a lot of skateboarders about this, including people who really don't want people to know their thoughts on this because they're afraid, or they have very large followings, or they work with companies that they're scared of. And most people are not cool with this. The thing that most skateboarders are cool with is that really anybody can do it. And if you come to the session and want to skate, we could probably, for the most part, care less what you're wearing or what name you want to call yourself, because we already have something in common that not a lot of people do, and that's a love for skateboarding. Especially if you're like my age and you're still skating, you have to like it, because it gets harder when you get to be like in your 30s. I'm not gonna lie.
What part of it gets harder?
I mean, like, I tore my ACL last year. I've had a bunch of injuries. Like, when it rains, I get creaky now. It's not that bad. Like, I'm actually in really pretty good health, and I'm grateful for that. But like, it's not the same as when I was a teenager, is what I mean.
Because you can get hurt and fall down, and it like doesn't even register.
Yeah, like it used to be I'd like bounce and I'd be fine. Or if I got hurt, it didn't even bother me that much, and I would recover pretty quickly. But I spent like months and months recovering from my knee, and that was a tough one. But it's doing really good now. But but what I mean though is, we all like something really weird that's not that common to be into, and especially if you're like going there as an adult to do it, it's because you love to do it, and that's cool. But people are not cool with when like men go into the women's divisions and just make a mockery of it, because that's what it's doing.
What would it take for people for number one, men to get out of women's sports in this way, and number two, for people to truly understand the physiological advantages that men have?
I think that we already do understand the physiological advantages. Like, there's already the science to back that. Like, male and female bodies are different. And for your first question, I don't think everybody's going to like my answer. And it's kind of evolved over time, because when I first started speaking up, I was like, it just compete with the men, which nobody would care about in a sport like skateboarding. Or you could have another division or something if you really wanted to do that, and you'd find people to sponsor it and enough people to do it, which they don't want that. They want to win in the women's division. But really, this is like a huge issue, and women's sports is not the only issue. There are so many problems that stem from transgender ideology. It's like what's happening with kids transitioning.
Yep.
Even adults are like, they transition and then they realize they've made a huge mistake and detransition. And even like, there's the study that shows that the rates of people taking their lives goes up after.
Yeah, it's not a solution. It just makes you a big pharma customer for life. It's a big expensive distraction.
And then it's like, what's happening in prisons, what's happening in other women's spaces where men are getting into these spaces. And really what it comes down to is, you can either treat all these different issues and the symptoms by trying to make different rules and write different policies. And that's probably going to be steps that are taken. But what I think we really need to get to a point of as a society is where we don't recognize this ideology to be a valid thing anymore, because it's ridiculous. And You know, I've met people who identify as trans who are very nice people and don't have any sort of bad intentions, but at the end of the day, there there are other mental illnesses where people have, you know, body dysmorphia, they see themselves wrong, and we don't treat any of them by affirming them. And I don't think that we're helping these people by affirming them. Even
No, I've been saying like true gender affirming therapy and care would be to affirm your biological gender. Like if you're like, man, I don't feel particularly like I'm a girl, I don't feel particularly feminine. Like, yeah, well, let's think of some ways. I'm not saying you have to get a boob job, but yeah, maybe go to Sephora and spend an hour with a gay and get your face made up, or figure out what to do with your hair, or figure out what clothes look best on you. Same for dudes. If you're like, I don't feel particularly masculine, like I don't know, to go shooting with somebody, or I don't know, go bowling. Figure out what man stuff you like to do.
even further than that, like be the weirdo who dresses funny, or be the tomboy if that's who you are. Like I'm a tomboy, and one of the reasons I take the issue with kids so personally is because I grew up a tomboy, and I grew up with all sorts of problems. I was like a troubled kid, and I think I could have very easily been the sort of kid who had a creepy teacher or counselor invite this idea into their life. And
Me too, because I was like on the later side for getting your period, all that stuff. Like I was 14, I was tomboy too. I just was really into sports. Like I was just active and not a girly girl at all.
yeah, like one of the things, I can't remember who, I was watching a podcast about this. It was a smaller one. If I think of it, I'll like comment it later. But they were it was a couple of women talking about how this is the first time that we have used a physical intervention for a mental problem since
Since when?
lobotomies.
Oh gosh, you're right.
Like,
And now we're like, well, that was clearly barbaric and ridiculous.
and I sometimes I almost think it's a little bit like, not exactly like, but hear me out in a couple of ways. I think that the gender dysphoria and eating disorders, you could draw some parallels, because people who have eating disorders, typically like women, young women, they have an idea of what problem is with their body and what they need to do to fix it. And it's very clear to everybody else that that's not a problem, and they're seeing themselves wrong.
Yeah, like, no, you're already thin enough. Like you look fine.
And then the people who really care about them, who really love them, come in and say, hey, like, we're going to have to put you inpatient in the hospital if you're not going to eat. We're going to have to like force you to get better. And the anorexic or bulimic or whatever it may be would hate them for that and think they're the enemy at first. And it can take people a while. Maybe some people are like ready to recover, but I think it can be kind of similar to the people who are trans, because if you tell someone who thinks that, no, you're actually fine the way you are, and like God didn't make a mistake, they might not want to talk to you anymore. But sometimes you have to be honest over being nice, and actually being honest.
That's real love
too. Even if it's not like they realize that right away. But I really think we're doing a disservice to everybody by even entertaining this like trans stuff, because nobody cares if you want to dress in women's clothes.
But we had cross dressers. We had drag queens and drag kings before this.
Here's when I say no one cares, I don't mean that actually, because it's actually okay that not everybody agrees with how you want to live your life. Not everybody's going to like it, and that's fine. Not everybody likes the way I live mine. I'm sure not everybody likes the way you live yours, and you still wake up and live your life every day and then sleep fine at night. So that's part of it too, is like this whole movement got to a point where everything has to be in lockstep, and even the people on their side can't ask questions or have a difference of an opinion. And I think that's scary for anything, but especially for something that like is sterilizing kids and is traumatizing girls who have to go through this when they're in school, and they should be doing something that makes them feel empowered and confident
and strong, right? Like a sport.
Yes. And also, I don't think people understand like how big of a role sports play in the lives of
It's huge. It shapes you for your entire life. Like, it gave me the discipline that I have pursuing stand up. Like, it was started with like 10, 11, and it gives you for me specifically with like gymnastics, but more seriously diving, because I went like Division I in college. It gives you discipline, and you're set up for life. And it made me a person who can take coaching, who can take critiques without like falling apart. It really gave me a sense of grit, and I don't quit easily on anything now. So, and
Yeah.
I that's what sports teaches you. And you're kind of like, you have a higher pain tolerance. You're just tougher all around.
There's so much that it's like immeasurable that you gain from sports, and every athlete knows this. And I just thought about, like, I played basketball growing up. I played softball. I feel like any bit of leadership skills I have is from being a softball pitcher. And also, like, not wanting to quit on this issue too, because as an athlete you have bad days. Everybody does.
Mm-hmm.
And skateboarding, like, I've had really bad days, but if you love it, you keep doing it and it's worth it. But I think about like these girls who are supposed to be going through that experience where they are learning to work as a team, and they're making friendships that they're going to have for life, and they're like learning how to be a good winner, a good loser, and like get back up and dust themselves off. But instead, they're learning that no matter how hard they work, and no matter how upset they are about it, that their feelings and their safety and their privacy and their equality is never going to be as important as a boy's feelings.
Oof. Yeah.
Not something to learn at that age. And I think it will have detrimental effects on society in the future if that's the type of childhood that we're going to allow girls to have.
Yeah, you figure out the hierarchy of everybody. You're like, oh, all right, I guess this boy can come up in our locker room and do whatever event they want. And I was going to say, to your point earlier, how dangerous it is that we are grouping together the people with body dysmorphia and the people who are literally just doing this because it's a fetish.
That too. Yeah, that's the other thing, is like, there's no way to know if someone's genuine. And I've just seen too many Redux stories to trust that all of them are. In fact, I don't think most of them are, because I have a hard time believing that anybody actually thinks that if they take some hormones or like put on some makeup that they're all of a sudden a woman. I don't believe that people actually believe that. I think people know they can use it as a beating stick on women if they say they believe that. But there's people who I think it is just a like sexual fetish for. And like, there was even the stuff that came out about Leah Thomas, like with the creepy Instagram page with all the fetish stuff. And
oh, really?
The guys at Crane and Co, I think, did an episode on it.
Oh, wow.
It's like, I think men know that they can do bad things and be seen as like the victim and still get praised for it. So
they know that the liberal allies will always have their back.
Yeah, it's probably a very inviting thing for somebody who's interested in doing something like that. And then perhaps, like, when I look at these cases of like the kids in high school, this is happening, sometimes like I think we need to look at the parents too, because every child.
Yeah. How could you encourage this? Like, it's your job to be like, wake up. This is not something we're gonna do. Like,
And
sorry.
I think this is probably like a smaller percentage of the cases, but there might be some people who actually are surrounded by people who are telling them this is an okay thing to do, and you're great for this, and these people are just haters. And when you're in an echo chamber like that, you can
they're enablers.
Okay, but I'd hope that people don't actually feel convinced by that when they hear stories like mine or Riley's, or like those track runners from Connecticut, Selena, Elsie Mitchell and Alana Smith, and like Peyton McNabb, who's the volleyball player who had the spike to the head, and she was
my gosh. Yeah, she'll never be the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she was able to finish her athletic career. No. It's not just like a one game, disappointment thing. Like, that's something that's going to impact her for the rest of her life. She was severely injured, and we'll see more of that. And it's really sad that it takes even one case, but apparently people in charge of, you know, allowing this to happen, whether it's the NCAA or, you know, schools, public schools, or these more independently organized things like the skateboarding thing I was involved in, they don't seem to care like what's happening to us. So I kind of went rambling a little bit, but
No, they don't care. And they probably just say like, well, what's the chain reaction of pissing off liberals? And they figure it's going to result in them losing money or losing opportunities or
maybe, but I don't know how people stay silent, because there's so many more of us than there are of them.
yeah.
There are. It's, and I never meet people in real life who don't agree with me. Every time I'm at the skate park, people come up and they agree with me, or they say they saw something I did or whatever. I get some dirty looks occasionally from some people who have always never liked me, or, you know, there's like some girls who like the roller derby girls who are
Oh, they're all dirty lesbians. Nobody cares what they think.
honestly, I think that was part of like the downfall of skateboarding culture, was when in 2020 they all started congregating at skate parks.
Ugh, they're
Yeah.
all fat. I'm not impressed by them at all.
Yeah, I'm not into that either. I don't know what the appeal to slamming into a bunch of ugly.
Because they're angry. They're angry because they hate men, they hate their dads, and they need to just slam into people to get through it. We got a couple questions.
I'm sure there's like some really cool bass derby girls out there. So
Yes, please show yourself.
but if that's your thing, keep on keeping on. Not everybody that I like to skate, so I get it. But yeah, like I just don't buy that the majority of the skateboarding community actually is into this. Most people just don't say anything. And then they kind of pretend, oh, I don't have a dog in the fight. It's like, I think first off, if you believe in God, you have a dog in the fight, because you should be doing the right thing. And if you know any women or are a woman, you have a dog in the fight, because this impacts all of us. And if you're just a person in society, you have a dog in the fight, because like I was talking about earlier, this is like going to be a domino effect, and it's going to impact women and girls in way bigger ways than us not having trophies or scholarships or records. This is going to impact how girls feel about themselves, how they view themselves.
It's going to get women to quit doing sports.
Yeah.
Period. They just feel like, well, I can compete with men, so I'm out.
Women to quit. And that's so sad, because this is supposed to be a space that was created for us.
Yeah.
And when you feel worse about yourself to even be there, of course you want to quit.
Matthew Hammond says, how did feminists go from pushing Title IX to trans? How did we get here? Because trans people have very smartly, or the powers that be have aligned trans people with like the new kind of victim class du jour, and that they're somehow, it's funny, in their attempt to make them equals and talk about equality, they actually have just put them lower down the totem pole.
Like you need me to speak up for you.
Yeah. Oh, you're weak. You need help. You're a victim.
I think a lot of women have like, it's not even a conscious thing a lot of the time, but we have a tendency to want to be polite. And
yep, especially women. Yeah,
want to, you know, just get along with people. And maybe not feminists. That I don't get, because they don't ever want to get along with anybody else. But on this issue, they want to be really nice.
Yeah, it's a female trait to be agreeable.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of women don't speak up. And another thing that nobody ever talks about, and I guess I kind of did touch on a little bit in that post, because I said about how I was too uncomfortable to speak up at the time, is it's not as easy as you think to speak up about this when you're going through something horrifically traumatic and being publicly humiliated like all at once, and dealing with that, and also trying to like plan your whatever you're doing for your sport competition and stay focused on that. It's not as easy as you think. Like, I actually think that I might have been physically assaulted if I had said something while I was there.
Oh, yeah. That seems
And
highly likely.
I likely would have been kicked out and then not even to be able to take home any money, which, like, is not the most
Right.
thing, but like
It was an expense to get there.
Yeah.
And
Like-
you're like you're in the top 3. You're in the top people that are going to place. So
it was like, you know, any contest can go any way, but based on the results so far, like, it was looking like I was probably going to place. And it's not always easy to call, but sometimes it is. And I figured I was going to get first or second. And actually, there were some people there who were telling me, I think you might have won anyway. And I told them, even if we got the same score, they're going to give it to him. Even the same points or however they do it, because they have different stuff, how they do it in different contests. But like, it's just baffling, and I'm grateful I get to speak up about it, but also it's like the dumbest issue ever. I can't believe it's even real.
Yeah, it seems like it shouldn't even be something that we have to discuss.
But I really
Jack Brennan. Hold on, Jack Brennan saying, Taylor, I'm a man and I want to get into your space, if that makes sense. But I digress. That's funny. K-Max, thank you for the 20. Taylor's view of Simone Biles. Did her handlers tell her to attack Riley Gaines? It makes 0 sense for Biles to, out of nowhere, attack Riley Gaines for brownie points with Hollywood celebrity friends she doesn't have.
Yeah, that was weird because it was so out of character based on everything she typically posts. Although she does post very, like, more progressive stuff. She's sharing, like, pride stuff. But I've heard some speculation that the timing might be due to, like, a Netflix docu-series.
Oh, wow.
Coming out, which she was just promoting a couple days or like a week or so before this post. But
wow.
But it's really confusing, and it seemed like a post that almost was like a quick, high-tempered post, the way that it was written. It didn't sound like something that was planned out, but I don't know. I don't know if it was like all part of a coordinated thing to try to get eyes on her, or if she just posted it. What was kind of weird is that she didn't end up posting for another 3 days, and then
because she probably was talking to her publicists and trying to regroup, trying to figure out what to say.
Yeah. Also, I mean, she's been hanging out with Netflix people, so maybe she really does believe what she was saying about, Riley. Which also, what she said to Riley was so ridiculous. She said something about how bully someone your own size. Ironically, that would be a male. Anyone who has met Riley
How tall is Riley?
I think she's
5'7".
5 or 5'6". Riley and I are very similar in size, and like she's not big by any means. And it was just such a silly jab because it wasn't even funny. It didn't have any truth to it. It was just ridiculous. And the apology, she said, she wasn't really trying to advocate for, women's sports to not be fair, but like the first sentence she mentions equity and inclusion. And apology about Riley was that, she had gotten personal with Riley for that. She apologized. You didn't get personal with her. You said something that wasn't actually like personal at all because it didn't apply to her. You just said something stupid completely out of your ass. And I think the apology read very much as a, damage control PR type of statement.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't read like an authentic, like, guys, I said something stupid. I'm sorry. I've had some time to think about it. And I think if she did want to win people over more, that would have been the better way to go than something that was like constructed to seem like it was written by like Chat GPT.
It did seem out of left field. You just, used to seeing that from Simone Biles. Here's from the Daily Mail. Riley Gaines defends her savage Simone Biles comeback after being confronted by Stephen A. Smith. Simone Biles' apology to Riley Gaines hasn't stopped the conservative activist's ongoing media blitz. The former University of Kentucky swimmer now speaks out against trans athletes in female sports, was a guest on Stephen A. Smith's podcast where she doubled down on her attacks, reference to the pedo doctor who abused Biles. Wow. I stand stand by what I said 100%, Outkick host Gaines told Smith, who was admittedly uneasy about the comment. The issue began last week when Gaines criticized a Minnesota high school softball team for relying on a trans pitcher en route to a state title. It sparked a blistering response from Biles, 28, who first criticized Gaines' views, then compared her appearance to a man. Biles wrote, "You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating a new avenue where trans feel safe in sports. Why? Maybe a trans category in all sports, but instead you bully them. One thing's for sure, no one in sports is safe with you around." It just doesn't make sense.
Also, just to be clear, the post that she's referencing that she shared that she said was bullying, Riley had written, that they were the champions and it was to be expected when your star player is a boy.
Yeah.
So what she considered to be bullying was calling a boy a boy.
Right.
And also I think Riley's talked about this too. Like the whole you should be pushing for trans division and uplift them. It is not women's responsibility to solve problems that mentally ill men create for themselves. It's not my problem. It's not Riley's problem. It's not up to us to come up with a solution. And we have offered solutions many times and they don't want them. So if Simone wants to use her platform to do that, she should. She's got a big platform. Why wouldn't she use hers if she cares about that so much? And she also, in her apology, talked about how what really upset her was that it felt like this kid was being attacked, which I don't really think calling a boy is attack.
How is that an attack?
But if that's really your concern and you're concerned about children, what about the girls? Like, let's talk about that because they're all children too.
Yeah, I think the boy threw like a no-hitter. Just
a shutout.
Yeah.
I think multiple shutouts.
Yeah. What's that going to do for these girls' self-esteem? How many of them are going to quit as a result?
Yeah, and it's like, also, I was a softball pitcher, and I know how much work goes into that. And I didn't go on to pitch forever, but I stayed in high school for 1 year to see if I wanted to play high school sports, and I was the varsity pitcher my freshman year, and I was the first person to do that since one of my older sisters. So I know how hard it is to train as a pitcher, and if I had had a boy take my spot when I had been working for years and years and years to be able to pitch varsity my freshman year, oh my God. Like
your dad would have been yelling.
I would have been like messed up over that. That would be devastating. Like what I went through as an adult was traumatizing. So I can't even fathom what that would be like as a kid. And pitching is really hard. So to take that away from a girl is super messed up. And also there's a reason why he's pitching shutouts. There's a reason to get off of him.
Because he just throws, everything's just harder and faster.
Yeah. But I'm curious, like, what the families, like the parents of the teammates think. Or do they think, wow, we got lucky because our girls are going to win every.
Yeah, I wonder. Let's see if there's a little snippet here.
A former NCAA All-American swimmer turned conservative pundit who now hosts the Gains for Girls podcast.
Sport of gymnastics, what she's done for women's sports in general, much broader than gymnastics. I have looked up to her and admired her. I mean, I watched her compete in 2016, 2020, 2024, the past 9 years at this point. I've admired Simone Biles. So when I got this notification on my phone that I had been tagged in something on X from Simone, I was like overwhelmed with excitement and starstruck, and I click on it and I read what you just said out loud. And I read it again and again, and I clicked the profile, and then I went back and I clicked the profile again to make sure it was really Simone Biles. This wasn't a fake account, and it really was Simone Biles, and I was heartbroken. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't heartbroken because of the personal attacks, because of her calling me a bully or saying that I'm disgusting or truly sick or whatever she said. It wasn't that hurt my feelings, because I'm a very secure person. I'm secure with myself. I'm secure with the side of history that I'm on, very happily married for 3+ years. Like, none of those personal attacks bothered me, but what did bother me is knowing the platform that she has and how she was so quick in such a venomous way to sell out young girls like my little sister. My little sister's 16 years old. She's an elite level gymnast. I come from a family of athletes. Like my dad played professional ball, SEC Hall of Famer. My brother played football in college. I, of course, went to University of Kentucky. My mom was a Division I softball player. My oldest sister went to Ole Miss. She played softball. My youngest sister is the best athlete out of all of us. She will go on to do incredible things, whatever she does in college and beyond. That's why my heart broke in that moment. I'm sure you'll continue to read the next tweet that Simone put out, which we can discuss. But in that moment, I was so just disappointed.
Bully someone your own
and disheartened
size.
to know a woman who has done so much
So
for the
lame.
sport
Body
was
shaming.
so quick to pull up the ladder behind her. That's how I
Riley's
would
so
describe it.
right though. Like when Simone's trying to slam her, who she's actually slamming is a bunch of young girls who have big dreams.
Right, because like Riley's, done. She's forged her path. Like she said, she's happily married. She's had her career.
Yeah.
Now she's gone on to be, kind of an influencer. So yeah, like she's good.
It reminds me of like Megan Rapinoe. And I honestly, I think it is good that Simone has kind of tried to walk it back. And I hope that it's genuine and that she means it. But it kind of seemed like more out of panic than anything.
And damage control.
Yeah. I think she expected the response to be so bad. And that's actually kind of refreshing because it wasn't that long ago that it wouldn't have gone this way. It wasn't that long ago that a feud like that, the dog pile would have gone on Riley. But people aren't afraid anymore. And also, I think it actually, another reason, maybe Simone didn't realize that Elon Musk bought X. And then actually leave comments now and not just
get funny. Yeah. And then she brings up about the trainer, the pedo trainer.
Yeah, that's another factor. Is like Simone Biles is somebody who's a survivor of a predator.
Right.
You'd think that would make you not want other girls to have to be in those vulnerable situations, those uncomfortable situations where you're having to share a locker room with a boy or have a boy traveling and staying in hotels and stuff, because that's another factor. I've seen cases of that happening as well, where schools are traveling for stuff and the boys are staying with the girls. But you'd think that you would want girls to be safe and not in situations where males could just take advantage of this door being wide open. And also, as someone who's an extremely high level athlete, like the highest level athlete, you know what goes into that, and that men and women are different. And I think she has said that she does know that, but it's like, welcome to the conversation. We've already talked about the possibilities of having another division, and they don't want that. So
because it wouldn't give them the same jollies.
But we've already tried to make compromises, to offer things, and that doesn't work. And I don't think it really helps the people who claim they identify as trans either.
No, it definitely doesn't. And it's just ridiculous.
Point. And sports are about winning. It's about success. And I don't know if you saw, even just this afternoon, Simone Biles issued an apology to me. Okay. I think it was a bit of damage control personally, but nonetheless,
it makes me think that like these high level athletes just kind of get told what to say by publicists and by their handlers. Like, look, you're going to take this position on this and just tweet it out and don't worry about it. And
maybe there's money involved. Maybe it's all fake. Maybe all the feuds we see on X are fake and it's all one big show and we're not part of it. Sometimes I wonder that too.
Oh boy. Yeah.
But I think that's the case here. I do think that it's possible she was trying to like get into the news cycle, because guess what some of those news stories were talking about? Her Netflix docuseries.
Yeah. That sounds very likely. Simone Biles said, I wanted to follow up from my last tweets. I've always believed competitive equity, inclusivity are essential in sport. The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. It didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. These are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. It's like, yeah, you are actually when you
you are. Anytime that you're advocating for it to be any different than just like a male and a female category, you are. Also, what is she even talking about? Competitive equity. Like, as an athlete, you understand it's not about that. It's about who
sports are not equitable. That's why they're sports.
Like, this isn't, she doesn't compete in the beer baseball league. Like, she knows what competition is really about. And
competitive equity would be Simone Biles, like, okay, let's have you compete against a woman who's not as good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna like lower the bars, we're gonna lower the beam, we're gonna give her a more of a springboard for the vaults, so that it's equitable, so that she can be at the level you're at.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And also the notion that it's a flawed system, that having men's sports and having women's sports is a flawed system. It wasn't flawed until 5 seconds ago or a few years ago when this really started picking up. But I think Riley's right. It's damage control, but hopefully she is sorry. Riley's such a good speaker on this issue. And
she's very impressive.
I look up to her a lot. I'm hoping I get to see her this weekend at YWLS, but she's been a huge role model to me, and she's been very supportive of me, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And I remember watching interviews of her talking about what was happening to her before I spoke up, and I needed to see that. And if I hadn't, no way I would have been able to say something.
Yeah, she's really great. Then Simone goes on to say, my objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful. What does that even mean? Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system. Flawed? It's not flawed. They have no control over. I believe sports organizations have a responsibility to come up with rules supporting inclusion while maintaining fair competition. Yeah, sorry, you can't have both.
Also, like, the idea that these boys and, you know, their divorced moms or whoever's really coordinating this,
whoever they get their Munchausen from,
control over making the choice to not do something that's like a horrible thing to do to girls and to not cheat. They absolutely can choose to not do that, but
for sure,
and that this just has to be this way.
The rest of her tweet said, we all want a future for sport that is fair, inclusive, and respectful. Yeah, I don't know. That's what makes sports great, is that they're not fair. It's like, I mean, it's fair in the sense that the best person is going to win on that day in that contest. So,
like, yeah, to advocate for, even honestly, if you really think about it, to even advocate for a trans division is kind of unfair, because that means there's 2 men's divisions and 1 women's division.
That's true.
So I think what's fair is, if you're a guy, you want to compete, you can compete with the guys. And also in gymnastics, it's not even the same events for the men and the women.
No, they do the pommel horse, they do the single bar, they do the rings.
What does she want to put in the trans division? She want to make up some new events?
Right. What events?
Do you want to do some equity stuff where they like can stand on?
I think, the events would be like the ball tuck. We'll have to think of some events. Some
Oh my gosh.
The butthole horse. I don't know. What are push-ups? My friend Push-Up says, Ata Magneva. That's Hebrew for you're hot.
Ooh, Toda Rabah.
Oh, I don't know what that means. I need a translator.
I don't speak a lot of Hebrew, just a tiny amount, just enough to not get ripped off at the shuk.
What's a shuk?
The market.
Okay. How are they try to rip you off? How does that happen?
Oh, you're an American, they'll charge you more.
Okay. So you have to be like not wearing American flag.
A lot of times you can't help it.
Your accent comes out, I guess.
I just try not to talk, but I don't speak that much Hebrew.
Could have fooled me. You sound great.
Thanks, but also like the only Hebrew I ever heard growing up was when I'd like hear my dad like doing like the menorah blessing or something. He doesn't even know what he's saying. He just which is the same when I do it, but
so at what point push-ups responded. We're a ladies' man. I don't know what she said, but I'll take it. So at what point do you then get contacted by, Turning Point to start doing some of these events? And also what's been like your favorite interview, obviously other than this one, of course, or person that you've met since this happened?
Oh, that's a hard question. I have a kind of a weird answer. Sorry, somebody just set off like a firework or something in my
What kind of dog do you have?
He's a 3/4 lab, 1/4 border collie, but he just looks like a really tiny chocolate lab.
Oh, how cute.
Immediately I started getting media requests, and I took a lot of them. I also didn't take a lot of them, and it was just because I had so many messages I couldn't get through them. So if you ever like reached out to me and I didn't respond, I'm sorry. I had like 100,000 messages and I couldn't get through them.
Wow.
But I think the coolest person I met, I met President Trump.
What? Where?
But that was when I was at CPAC, and I didn't think it would actually happen, but I kind of asked if I could, and they ended up saying yes, so I got to. And
how cool!
I think that was the first time that Trump and Riley met too.
Oh wow! Which one? What year was that?
That was 2022, maybe.
Okay.
And I think one of the coolest people I met, and it's kind of weird, but I worked at Timcast for a long time too. And one of the guests was somebody who I had learned about as a kid and I thought was very cool and looked up to and read some of his books. And I had seen that he was back in the news kind of, and is Damien Eccles, and he was one of the boys who was wrongfully convicted of murdering 3 young boys. And you can the documentaries about it, the Paradise Lost documentaries on like HBO, they're probably on YouTube too. But basically my dad had shown me this. Oh, I just realized one of the books, I have books in my stack that are his books actually. But basically, my dad had me watch these documentaries when I was growing up, and I had read one of his books, and I thought it was a really interesting story. So Damien ended up coming out to Timcast for an episode of Culture War, and I had talked to him before because he had ended up like signing a book and sending it to me. But
cool.
It was always like I had messaged him on like Instagram or something, just something about enjoying his book, and it was a long time ago. But we met, and I got to have lunch with him and his wife, and it was the coolest ever, because like it's kind of like I was starstruck, but also he's somebody who spent many years on death row and got out, and basically do you know this story? I feel like you would know.
I don't. I should.
This seems like right up your alley. But basically he and the 2 other boys, they were convicted after one of the boys who's mentally challenged had given a false confession. But there were like multiple other things that weren't really looked into that really should have been. And they ended up getting sentenced to life in prison. Damien sentenced to death.
Whoa.
And the HBO people went out to film this documentary, I think thinking that they did it. And then they started to realize these kids are innocent. So the documentary came out and they got a whole bunch of support. And every once in a while, I still get like a comment or a message from someone who's like, that guy did it. I'm like, he didn't do it.
Wow.
Like, he might be kind of a weird guy. He's a cool guy, but like he's a weird guy, but that doesn't mean he murdered somebody just because he's a weird teenager. And basically he's actually been like fighting for this DNA evidence to get tested. And I think it actually got approved that it's going to. I don't know if it's happened yet, but I really hope that they get exonerated, because I kind of have like admiration for people who go through like really unjust things and get out of it and are able to find their people and get support. And he was the case that I looked up to him when I was a kid before anything ever happened to me. And
Wow.
to meet him was really cool, just to see like how everything turned out okay and how happy he and his wife were. And I just thought, like, man, if he can get through that, like anybody, I can get through anything.
That's really neat.
So,
Yeah. Are you following the Karen Reed trial?
which one is that?
Karen Reed, she is being framed for the murder of her boyfriend. It's happening in Boston. It's basically like a big, the cops are covering up this murder. And
Oh, I'm not familiar with this one. Sorry, I'm just
I think the trial is going on right now. And she basically has to like prove her innocence. Yeah, it's
so she's being accused of murdering the
she's
boy.
being accused of murdering her boyfriend, and she was like, I guess, drunk the night it happened. She dropped him off at a house full of other cops, and he was a cop too. And then he was like, "Oh, I don't remember. Did I hit him with my car?" And they framed it to make it look like I guess basically there was I think it's like he got his ass beat in the house, and then they dragged him out in the snow to die because one of the girls from inside the house Googled like how long does it take to die in the cold. That's what through Discovery they got that. And
it's like a police cover up, since there
yes, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a big police cover up.
I don't know enough about that one to really talk about it, but now I want to look it up.
It's pretty neat. I should be watching the trial.
About it.
I think that the trial's happening right now.
Man, I've like not been paying attention to anything lately.
That's how I feel. It's okay. K-Max says, Chrissie Mayr, as a diver, how would men have done diving against you? We make a bigger splash in the water, don't we? I thought more splash was bad. Well, let's say if the men and women's were like combined together, oh God, maybe I would have placed 5th or something.
I right now, what would happen?
Because in meets, I would go like are you talking about like the junior league or college? Like in college, I'd be in some meets 1st, 2nd, 3rd. I was like, it depends how many people are in that meet. Is like at a championships, like if it's just a two team meet, yeah, I was always placing. So if there were men too, like maybe I wouldn't have placed. It was
also, you would have been absolutely traumatized and horrified by having to look at a guy in a lady swimsuit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it would have been.
Diving, that's like very scary to me. I think that is a sport I could never do. I had a diving board accident when I was a kid.
Oh no, what happened?
I cracked my head open.
What were you doing?
I was doing a backflip, which I had done many times at my pool, and I was at a friend's place. And
okay.
And we were like leaving, and I was just like, I'm gonna do a backflip real quick. I was like 15 or 16, and I just remember like hearing a really loud bang and then coming out of the water and being covered in blood. And
wow.
then I had to go get my head stapled back together.
So that's the thing with backyard pools is like the boards are always shit and they're not maintained, and they're all different types. There's like never one standard for them, and that's why like so many diving boards have been removed from all kinds of pools, like sort of like professional venues and just community pools, and because the liability is ridiculous. It's just
every time I watch divers, especially when they jump like from facing backwards,
inwards,
out
like an inward dive like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like hold my breath the whole time, and I'm like covering my.
That's the thing is it can be safe. It's all physics. Like the harder you basically jump up and throw down, the more it pulls. And I was a coach for so many years, so it's like I know exactly what went wrong with your backflip, and it's like, it pains me because I wish I could have like been there to to coach you. And it's like a shitty backyard diving board too. So it's like you probably like threw your hips forward too much. You probably didn't extend all the way through, which pulled you close to the board, and that's why you hit your head.
I had no business even doing any of this. I just had too much confidence because I was a kid.
That's what happens.
But now I don't flip off diving boards. I haven't done it since. Probably never will.
And then you went ahead and pursued professional skateboarding after this traumatic event.
The only reason I ever started skateboarding is because I like to snowboard.
That's funny because usually people start at skateboarding and then go to snowboarding. Snowboarding is the best. It's like it's scary, but it's fun.
Where I grew up, there's a ski resort really close by, and a lot of kids did it. And I wasn't super into it from a very young age, but I had friends who were and who kind of got me out there when I was maybe like 14. And I ended up really liking it. So my dad was like, if this is what you really want to do, then you can get a snowboard. But like, I think he was a little disappointed that I didn't want to keep playing school sports, but I always saw that though, at least for me, because I didn't really want to go to college. I always saw a lot of team sports as a very temporary thing. And when I go snowboarding, there are people all ages there, and there are people who are old. And I was like, I could do this forever. There are some really old people out there.
What's the oldest snowboarder you've seen?
I have seen some people who like they got to be like in their 70s.
Oh, wow.
And they're good. And I just think that it's the sort of thing, if you keep doing it and you really like it, there's a lot of longevity in it.
You won't get rusty. Yeah, just don't do like any wild jumps.
Yeah, maybe you won't do it the same way forever, but you can do it forever. And with snowboarding, one of the really nice things is also that you're out in nature and it's beautiful.
It's relaxing.
Yeah.
To like cruise along on some good powder and the quiet and the trees. I mean, if you're not hitting them.
Yeah, but then I would miss snowboarding a lot, and I realized that a lot of the snowboarders skated, and I didn't really think much about it then, that there weren't really a lot of girls doing it. But I started off with just a board that I would like skate in my driveway.
Oh, cool. Wow.
And there's like an indoor park, the Kalamazoo Skate Zoo, and like a lot of the Kalamazoo skate parks are in like the worst areas.
Oh, no.
So the skate zoo is not in a good area, but it's run by a really good guy. So I was able to go there and skate inside in a business that was safe and learn to skate when I was like a girl. And I'm really grateful that place was there, because I don't think I would have lasted in the north side of Kalamazoo at that age.
Wow. That's so neat.
I skated a lot of like the parks on the outskirts of Kalamazoo in other cities too, but Skate Zoo's my favorite.
That makes me want to like look up my old diving coaches. I mean, one's dead, but one was a former Marine, one went on to be a pharmacist, and one like might have been into hard drugs. I'll have to look into it.
Then you turned out pretty good.
For real. It's just because it just gave me really good habits.
So I know, like, this is probably the dumbest question ever, but I've only ever like followed you on Twitter, and I don't know you that well. But how long have you been doing stand-up?
Since I think I started in like, I don't know if I'm going with 2010 or 2011.
Okay, so long time.
We'll go with 2011. So yeah, 14 years.
Wow.
It feels and it's like people do it different ways. Like I'm definitely not as like busy or productive as I could be, but it's like I have a baby, so that really changes things.
You've got like you got a bunch of stuff on YouTube. I saw you got like you got Simcast, you got Chrissie Mayr podcast. I saw something like some nighttime one.
Nightmare, yeah, that's what I call my in-studio show. We just finished the new studio. Yes, and I love a pun, so we call that Nightmare.
That was fun.
If you're ever in New York, come out to the studio.
I would love to. I'm not that far from New York. I don't have any trips planned there right now, though.
Ooh, Yeah, that would be great. Taylor, where can people, so you'll be at the what's it called? The Young Women's Leadership Summit?
Yes, I'm gonna go to that. I actually, after we're done, I need to go to bed, or at least try to. I'm probably not actually gonna fall asleep for like 2 hours because I know myself, but I'm gonna try. And then this weekend, if you're going to YWLS in Dallas, please say hi. If you see me, if you're like not going, but you're in Dallas, you probably could still get tickets.
Ooh.
It's a really fun event. Maybe not so much for the guys.
It's not for you, okay? Let me know. Like, go and listen to Nala Ray speak, and report back to me. That would be great.
I'm kind of skeptical about that, to be honest.
I would really love to hear her speak, to just like see where she's at.
So I think I've heard her talk, and she says some things that are very nice, and I hope that she's genuine, and I mean that. Like, I really hope she is, because it sounds like she's been through a lot. And the things that make me slightly skeptical, though, are like, she's got an online ministry where she's selling a bunch of courses. I think there's like 14 or 15
ministry.
Yeah, and it's like through her Instagram, and they're to $50 a month. And I don't know. There's been other stories where people have done that kind of stuff, and it hasn't always been the most authentic. And also, I don't know how OnlyFans works because I haven't used it, but it does seem a little strange that she still has an OnlyFans account, and it's kind of difficult to believe that you can't just like remove subscribers. So I wonder if maybe she's keeping it because she's planning to reactivate it.
Maybe it's a passive income. I'm just reading this article. In her first month on OnlyFans, she made $87,000. In her whole career, she's made $14 million. But it cost her everything, including her soul. Well, we'll see.
But I think that I can't remember. It's like the Anointed Path or something. But if you go to her Instagram page and you go to her links, it's in there. But the website that she's got the different courses for sale, and it's like courses on like how to have a great marriage and how to be free. And I think a lot of the people who are defending her maybe haven't seen that. And maybe she just really feels super motivated to tell everybody all this stuff that she feels she's been enlightened with, and she wants to charge them for it. But off to me, you know?
That is interesting. Junior says, Taylor for Simcast. Oh, yeah. I got to get you on Simcast.
That's what I thought you were asking me.
Oh, come to a Simcast. Even better.
I would love to join Simcast sometime. I've watched a couple episodes of Simcast, and I like the laid back vibes.
Oh my gosh. Okay, for sure, for sure. KMax for 2. I second Taylor for Simcast. All right, it's official. It's official.
Thank you, guys.
We'll have to chat about what Sundays you can do. Where can people follow you other than on Twitter at TMS Silverman or on Instagram at Taylor May Silverman?
That's pretty much all I use. So if you see any accounts that say they're me on TikTok or anything else, it's not me. But yeah, just X and Instagram. I post more on X, but sometimes I like neglect my social media entirely for just no reason for a while. So
girl, same. I
that sometimes too. But I really appreciate though that social media has, surprisingly to me, because I wasn't somebody who was really into social media, but it's connected me to like so many cool people. I've made so many friends, and it's been a way for me to like share my thoughts and get it out and connect with people over it, and also talk about what's going on in skateboarding, because it's crazy that nobody else is talking about it. In fact, there's only like one other person who was really actually trying to speak out, and it was the father of one of the girls, one of the Olympians, and he's a good guy, but his name's Max Wetstein, I believe. So there are some people, but there haven't really been that many, except for a lot of people behind the scenes. So I hope that me speaking out will lead to more people in skateboarding.
It absolutely will. It's so brave what you've done, and and every time you do something brave and speak truth, like I feel like God rewards you with support, be that friends or attention or
Yeah,
just
it's changed my life in a big way and in a lot of positive ways that I never expected. So it's pretty cool. I know not everybody would want to like be talking about stuff on the internet all the time, but even just, not being afraid to talk to people in your community or, to
yeah.
actually ask questions when it comes to the people who you're voting for. Just,
Oh yeah.
you know, keep in mind what's happening to the girls and that this isn't a compassionate thing to do for anybody. It's not compassionate for the people who identify this way either. It's just pushing them further into.
Yeah, you're just enabling and
Many of them will be like, patients of big pharma and the medical industry for life because of
exactly.
death, and that's not a good thing.
Exactly. Everyone follow Taylor right now. Follow her on Twitter. Follow her on Instagram. Please like and subscribe this show. Thank you, Taylor, for joining me. You're just an absolute delight.
Thank you so much for having me. I've always thought you were cool online, and I was really excited when you reached out because I was like,
let's be friends. Okay. All right. Thank you to the chat for your comments and questions, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye, guys.